Hello, crime fighters. Let me tell you where we are in the game of chess. Remember Penn National? Any day now, 200 arrests. At least that's what I hear. Well, I spoke to the FBI, the lead investigator, Bruce DuPay, just last week. And I gave him all our immunities, which I'll go over. Evidence on a number of occasions of all the criminality going on in New Hampshire and Massachusetts who are working with Penn National. But here's the joke. Penn National's not going down. They're a multi-billion-dollar corporation. You know what we're waiting on? We're waiting on the cover-up. The FBI's coming to me to find out what I know. A few weeks ago, a gentleman, a horse trainer named Richard Dutrow, turns out he got 10 years, and I still don't know what for. But he asked me on the phone for my help and knowledge. Except for during the conversation, he asked me, can you tap into a DA's computer? Really? When's the last time someone asked you if you could do that? Of course not. But why? Turns out he knows Bruce. Or is it that the FBI want to know what I know? Remember when I told you bribery? The FBI's not going to do anything to Penn National. Multi-billion-dollar corporation. This has always been about protecting them. They'll get paid, but you're not going to find out. Hard to believe? Remember Cantor Gaming? Because I asked Bruce this to himself. I said, Bruce, how did you allow Penn National get a gaming license in Massachusetts knowing how corrupt they are? Well, I wish we could prove a RICO charge against them. Really? I've got multiple employees from Penn National corrupt. How about your racing secretary that helped them put the races together? The clerk of scales, multiple people. So you are involved. But you allowed them to get their license. That means you're not going to do anything. You're part of the cover-up. And that's what we're waiting for. Hard to believe? You're asking if I could tap into a DA's office. Maybe the DA office that you're concerned about would be the one in Harrisburg. You know. Attorney Shardo? Assistant District Attorney? One of the key players in this is a gentleman named Ronnie Brown, who's one of the heads of this gambling syndicate that walks right back into Penn National. You'd be interesting to hear that Ronnie Brown ran a fundraiser for the district attorney to be a judge while he's being investigated. Of course he knows. In fact, when Chardo was questioned, he goes, there is no crime called race fixing in Pennsylvania. Wow. In addition, he says, this is Chardo himself, court disfavors perjury prosecutions. Wow. So I guess we can fix races, and then we can lie about them, and the DA's cool. No wonder why you were concerned that I tapped into their computers. They must also know the bribery here. So Bruce, you're not calling me to help me out, although you're going to, unwittingly. Listen, if you're going to send these stiffs to try to pick my brain, try not having them be half-wits, all right? It's just insulting. Let's go through Brown. It says that Brown was one of the people associated with Kakavas. You remember Kakavas, the head jocks agent, who was putting races together with the racing secretary, Jenkins. You see? You can file a RICO against Penn. You told me you wish you could. Well, we know you both can. Now that we got you working on that, and let's turn around and look at the evidence I did give you. Well, I gave you the voicemails of Nick Alexander and Friedman. I gave you the text message that we discussed that said that New Hampshire was corrupt, that threatened my children's lives, that said that Lisa Tracy was a spy, that said that my attorneys that she hired were spies. What did you do about those? What about the forgery I gave you? The forgery of John Ross with my fee agreement. That would put the mentor of the U.S. attorney in jail. Now you have that. What about my fraudulent tax return? You know, the one they cheated in again, forged my name. Now you have that too. Now let's look at the immunities we discussed, right? We had Nick Alexander. Do you remember what I told you Nick could give us? Nick was the guy covering up for the corruption in the courts, covering up the Ponzi scheme with the banking department. You see, we give Alexander, he gives us judges, he gives us law firms, he gives us the IRS, the DRA. See, and everything's in writing right here. Let's see what else we got. We discussed Alex Walker. Now, Alex is the closest thing I know to the devil, which may explain why he's working at the Catholic Memorial Hospital. Nice job, by the way. This guy, he could give you the FRM Ponzi scheme. He was in charge of the cover-up. He worked. You know what his best buddy is? Kakavas. Right. When I went to him and say I was going to turn these guys in, the next day I got a target letter from Kakavas' office to shut my mouth. And you know what was funny? They wanted to review loans that were 4 and 5 years old. Except we all know it's only 3. And they throw the rest out. But that was just a shot over my head. I have that evidence and I sent that to you too. Let's see else what Walker could give us. Walker could give us the Attorney General's office. He could give us Glenn Furlow, who is now the banking department. Send him to jail. He could give us the cover-up of FRM or Kakavas' position in this. He could give us Jonathan Ross. He could give us the complete corruption in the court system. He'll give you Tim Powell of the IRS. Kelly Ayotte. Bill Shaheen. The implode hearings. He could give you Alan Pincus and tie those cases in. How about the corruption of Judge McHugh? And multiple judges. Listen, the feds gave Sammy the Bull immunity, and what did he kill? 30 people? And I hate to do it, but this guy could change history. So you got them too, and we discussed it. Henry Hyder. He was the one that Walker intimidated and turned. He's the one also worked with the IRS and DRA. Tells you the whole fraud piece. Tells you about the corruption in the Lawrence court, in the courts in New Hampshire, but in Boston too, in federal court. He knows. He could also tie in Schwartz, who was the principal at CCR, who was bought by Grant Thornton, who did the complete cover-up. Turns out the audit we had was a guy named Bill Tazia from CCR. You know what? It turned out he was Alex Walker's first cousin. Lisa Tracy had Kakavas as attorney, and I had Walker. Can you say cover-up? They had to use a scapegoat. That's how they did it. So here's Friedman. There's 3. I'm sorry, that was Hyder. This is Friedman. Friedman just covered up again the Banking Commission. He was our attorney in Massachusetts working on the Bank Commission. He's sitting on 3 bogus consent orders. No doubt about it. He was supposed to be reporting all this to the FBI. Remember? I sent you a CD with him saying we should go to the feds. Now that's hard evidence. He's also about the corruption of the Board of Overseers that he's part of and that cover up. He can also give you Ronnie Wise in the PCC in New Hampshire. Friedman can also give you the spy, the attorney we had, Ted Little, who was working with Alan Pincus. Pincus doesn't need immunity. Because he could tie in Penn National. The texter, I believe, could be Ted Little, who just threatened my family's life. See? How's that immunity? And the last immunity. And probably the most disturbing. Lisa Tracy. Remember her from the text message saying that she was a spy? Well, her husband abused their daughter. I'm not talking out of school. It was in the front page of many papers. Check the Lawrence Eagle Tribune. You know who his attorney was? Shaheen. You know what they did? They leveraged her. They were going to take her 3 girls, send the husband to jail. Now, maybe he should go to jail. But she now worked for them. How's that for extortion? Shaheen and Gordon, remember? Jean Shaheen and Bill Shaheen? How's extorting a mother of 3 children? To spy, to destroy evidence, to falsify returns. How's that? She can give you that. She also sits with the $100,000 check, remember? The extortion? You've got that evidence. Paid to Shaheen and Gordon. Lisa was in charge of hiring all the corrupt attorneys. They sent them to her. She was my controller. She'd give them to me. That's how they kept coming up corrupt. That's how evidence went missing. So here you go. You ready? I warned you not to send me a half-wit. Well, now this is evidence. And you have it. And your boss, United States Attorney Peter Smith, well, you're getting a package too. Also, the director of the FBI, James Comey, he's going to get a package too. So we're all going to have a package. All hard evidence that incriminates a U.S. attorney, at least in one state, and asked a lot of questions about the one in Massachusetts. Remember, John Friedman? You were going to Carmen Ortiz. Remember? You told me you live on the same street. You're practically neighbors. So you would discuss it with her. Did you? Let's find out. So, you sent me Mr. Slick, and I gave him the evidence to open up a case. And I'm going to see the powers that be get it. So, bad news, Penn National and racing fans. The fix is in. So every time you walk into a Penn racetrack, no, they were part of stealing your money. When these people are betting, they're betting against where you bet. Quite literally stole your money. They know about it. And they're working together. That's the truth. And one last thing to Suffolk Downs. When you want us to feel bad about you leaving, maybe you shouldn't do interviews like this. Rivera said the horses will likely go all to adoption. They can't go to slaughter. We can't do that anymore. How touching. But don't worry about Suffolk Downs. Here's another prediction. Now, how Penn got their license in Western Pennsylvania, Plainfield. Listen, the only thing deader than horse racing is harness racing. When's the last time you've seen a harness horse? Even on television, other than pulling a wagon and having an Amish person in it. Right. Where do you think those horses are going to move to? That's the deal. How's that for slick? Penn National, the FBI's letting you off the hook. But see, you tried to bury me. So I'm coming to get you. I'm going to file a RICO complaint in the state of Pennsylvania against Penn National. And all that evidence you were worried about, bribery and all this, I'm going to put that together. The country's going to get to read what you've done. The FBI may not say anything, but I will. Right. And then we'll find out what the FBI left out.